Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be actually doing this in reverse as I take apart my lead singer for my skeleton band I made out of super posable skeletons from Home Depot. I will do my best to show you how I actually put this together. So in the video you're going to be seeing basically me taking it apart, and I'm going to try to explain how I put it together as I did so. The cloak was just a costume cloak, and I used hot glue and Velcro dots and then hot glued them together so they would slip through. Then I cut holes through the cloak for the arm, pull noodles on the shoulders to give them some bulk around the shoulders. The list of supplies will be as follows. Okay, this is the base, which is 18-inch pieces of 3/4-inch PVC and then 4 12-inch pieces of 3/4-inch PVC. And then the risers up are 2 47.5-inch pieces of 3/4-inch PVC. And the way I built this was 12-inch T, 12-inch T, 90, 18 inches, and then repeated. Okay, and then at every joint I took a 3/4-inch screw and drilled and then screwed into the PVC to lock everything into place so nothing would actually fall apart. You could actually glue this together if you wanted to, but I just used 3/4-inch sheetrock screws. So coming up off of that 47-inch piece, we have a T on top of that comes across, which is a 6-inch piece with a T in the middle, and then another 6-inch piece on the other side, and that creates the hips where we will be later joining and putting in the lower part of the superposable skeleton. This is the drive assembly, and we will go over that later. This is the actual head. That is a 6-inch piece of PVC. You do not need the coupling. Then you need an eye hook into that PVC. That is a 3/4-inch piece, 4-inch up the top. Okay. Then I split heated it, and then put a clamp on it so I could actually pose the head. And then that is a 1/2-inch piece of PVC pipe going through that 4-way T, and then screws on each side to keep it from going side to side, so it'll just sit there and have a place to pivot. And then I used any form of wire. Me personally, I have an electric fence, so I used the aluminum electric fence wire to make the shape for the hood of the robe. Here you're seeing the hose clamp that allows me to pose the head, and like I said, I did that by heating and splitting the PVC, and then while it was hot, putting it back on and putting a hose clamp on it, and it forms around the ball joint of the product. You can have it as loose or as tight as you prefer. This is the back view of the build for the skeleton. Here I'm just showing you I used wire, that same aluminum wire for electric fencing, to just tie on a couple of pieces of pull noodles to give the shoulders the bulk that I wanted. Then on those 2 top T's, you're going to see I have 2 screws one on each side into that 1/2-inch PVC, so that does not move, and the head actually moves on the 1/2-inch PVC instead of the 1/2-inch PVC moving. The 1/2-inch PVC is actually the solid part, and the 3/4-inch T is what moves on that 1/2-inch PVC. Okay, here we're coming up to the arms of the super posable skeleton, which that is a 2-inch piece of 3/4 inch PVC and a 3/4 inch T. And what I did there was I took the arm out of the skeleton, then I anchored the PVC into the T with that one screw, and then I anchored that piece of PVC pipe to the skeleton with the other screw. And that allows me to have full, completely superposable joints for the arms still, even after I took it out of the manufacturer's body. Drill your holes with a drill and not just a screw, because the superposable skeleton plastic is very brittle, so you want to go ahead and drill your hole before you put your screw in on that. And here I am just reassembling it so you can see what I'm talking about. And then I will actually show you that it is still 100% still posable. And I did that on both arms. From that T that goes into the arm down, I used a 5.5 inch piece. Into the T for the chest area, a 7-inch piece of pipe on the bottom side of that T. Into a 3/4 inch T, which I used to push out the chest plate, so I would have a place for the motor and assembly to actuate and do what it needs to do. Out of that T, to make the chest area, that's a 3/4 inch to a 45 to a 7-inch piece to a 90, and then repeat process back around 7-inch, 45, 3¼ back into the T. What you will see is a screw in the middle of that 90, and that will be to hold your tensioner for the spring load of the head. As stated before, this was actually me disassembling it, so you will see some of it in a little bit looks odd order, because we've already seen it more disassembled than it is now. That is just one of the small totes from the Dollar Tree to protect the clothing and the motor from binding up to any of the clothing. And all I did was notch it out around the PVC and then just screwed it directly into the PVC pipe. Now, that is just a piece of 3/4 inch wood that I took a paper plate and drew a circle around it so I'd have a circular surface, and then drilled and put 2.5 inch screws into. The tensioner I am using is just a rubber band that came on some of my wife's plates. You can use anything, rubber bands, bungee cords, whatever you need to. And that is just a rain gear motor that I have a piece of PVC pipe attached to. And I will show that here a little bit closer in a second. Alright, how I attached my wood to the motor was I drilled a 1-inch hole through the center of the wood, put my 3/4 inch PVC through it, put a T on it, and then screwed the T into the wood to secure it, and then I put a cap on the back side of the piece of pipe and attached that with a screw into the little connectors you can get from Amazon to fit motors with the little set screw. And then I drilled and put a screw inside that cap so everything would be secured. I just mounted the motor with a piece of 2x4 and then screwed it directly into PVC. Here's a better view of how I anchored up the 1/2-inch PVC. Okay, now this is at the bottom of the skeleton, that middle section at his hips. That was a 2-inch piece hanging outside of the bottom of that T, and that was so we could secure the bottom half of the skeleton of the spinal cord right into, so he would have legs. I painted all the PVC black just to make it kind of disappear and hide at nighttime. Then the chest plate that I took off of the skeleton, I just attached with 2 screws in the middle of that 90. The clothing I found was just a slip that I cut the shoulder straps on and then draped over the front and back to cover up his legs, and then the robe from like Spirit Halloween to cover up his shoulders and upper body. And I just used screws to hold the slip straps up to where they were supposed to be. Here I'm showing you where I cut those holes, and it just literally slips over his arms. His microphone was made with the Dollar Tree bone. I don't know what that stuff is, but it's some kind of little stringy stuff you get at the Dollar Tree. I believe that is a solar pumpkin light, and I cut and just hot glued it all together. And I made that his microphone. If you have any questions on or needing help on this build, please just leave them in the comment section. I will get back with you and do the best I can to help you build this project yourself.